My name is Ruchia Vital, and today we have a very special guest. Our guest is Rawan Osman, and she has a very, very special story to tell us. Shalom.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm very, very excited to have you here, and I really want to share your story, your very, very unique story with our viewers and with the world. So you are Lebanese?
I'm half Lebanese, half Syrian. I grew up, or I spent the first 18 years of my life in Lebanon through several wars with Israel. And I lived in Damascus, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in France, in Cyprus, and now I've been living in Germany for 11 years.
And you were raised in what kind of home?
Secular, middle class, so religion was irrelevant. My parents are Sunni and Shiite. If they married, then religion wasn't so relevant. And they sent us to...
In other words, if a Shiite woman or man marries a Sunni woman or man, that means that's not an important issue.
Yeah. They are secular, and they sent us to a French Catholic school in Lebanon. That is why my Syrian father decided to live in Lebanon, because the education is much better than it was and still is in Syria. So we grew up celebrating every holiday, whether Muslim or Christian. And as I said, religion wasn't relevant. The only thing everybody agreed on is their hatred of the Jews. And it's quite easy growing up in Lebanon. Why wouldn't you hate the Israelis? If you would live there, you would not be fond of Israel or the Jews, especially that the Israeli narrative or the Israeli voice is omitted from our existence. So whatever the state wants you to believe, the state in Syria, the state in Lebanon, but more in Lebanon, I should say, whatever Hezbollah wants you to believe, you would believe it. There was nobody to counter the narrative we are told.
And you had never met a Jew in your life until you left the Middle East?
Until I moved to France. I lived in 4 Arab countries, and until I moved to France and lived in the Jewish quarter in Strasbourg, I had never seen a Jew. I had never seen a synagogue. Watching families every weekend going to that big building made me wonder, why are they so obsessed with this museum? Until somebody told me that's their synagogue. How would I know? And I told the story, I don't know how many, hundreds of times. The first time I saw Jews, or I recognized that they were Jews because they were 4 ultra-Orthodox Jewish men, I had a panic attack. And I'm a fearless type. I was embarrassed. I had to understand why I panicked. And that was the first and the last panic attack I ever had. And I realized, after thinking about the incident, that I panicked because for the first time in my life, and I was 25, 26, for the first time in my life, I was sharing the same space with a Jew, the enemy.
And how did you get over that panic? How did you learn that the situation was somewhat different than you had been taught?
Well, first of all, I was trying to help myself calm down and breathe. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I was so embarrassed because I was red and sweaty. And I had left my stuff in the grocery store where I saw the men. And I ran out, crossed the street, went up to my bedroom, 3rd floor, and locked the door. Can you imagine? And I thought, like, they didn't even look at me. Nobody was following me. I was embarrassed.
That was the devil incarnate. That's what you saw in front of you, as far as you were concerned.
Yes. At first, I had to go back to the grocery store and get my stuff. And the man had left. There was only the storekeeper. And he asked me where I came from. And I told him, half Syrian, half Lebanese. Today is my first day here. And I lied to him. I told him that I forgot my wallet. But he smiled. He understood. He knew that I was lying. And he was nice to me. He helped me with my bags. And I decided to continue shopping there because he was across the street from where I was staying for months. And I think in retrospect, thinking about it years later, I think that day he converted me from an enemy to an ally through kindness. Had he reacted differently, had he asked me to leave, to never come back, that would have changed my life. So first of all, he was nice. Second, nobody looked at me. I wasn't chased out of the store. And I sat down over months. I was staying in an old house and the windowsills were very wide. So I sat on the windowsill and watched those Jews. And I realized I didn't know that some Jews covered, like some women covered their head, that they dressed modestly. I didn't know much about them, whether religious or secular. And I realized that the Jewish quarter in France meant there were Jews living there. It was filled with Jews, opposed to the Jewish quarter where I worked in my early 20s in Damascus, where there were no Jews. And same applies to the Jewish quarter in Beirut. There are no Jews. In Europe, there were Jews, and they seemed quite friendly and nice to me. And I was thinking maybe the Jews in Europe were friendly and the wicked ones are those who live in Israel. And I wanted to know. First of all, I realized that my perception of the Jews in Israel was shaped by the Secretary General of Hezbollah, by Hassan Nasrallah. Everything I knew about Israel, I heard from him and I believed him. So I started there. I started reading about Hassan Nasrallah and the history of Hezbollah, the history of our region. And I had access to uncensored information in France. And I give an example, especially to the young ones who don't understand what I mean by uncensored information in Europe. And I tell them that Wikipedia is banned in Turkey in 2024. So what we saw on the internet was censored. And watching the early videos of Hassan Nasrallah opened my eyes. Watching or coming to realize that Hezbollah was one of the militias that fought against other Lebanese during the civil war, against other Shia. And they told their agenda, and it had nothing to do with Lebanon. Coming to that realization filled me with anger because I realized we've been lied to. And all those who lost their lives in vain. What we were told at school, that the Jews came from Eastern Europe and stole Palestine, implying Palestine used to be a country with specific political borders, is not true. Had the Arabs accepted to share the land with the Jews, all these senseless wars could have been avoided. That filled me with anger, opened my eyes, and put me on a journey of transformation, to put it this way. I decided to expose the lies. I'm going to write a book, and I was really angry. And I made my first Israeli friend. I met Yossi Klein Halevi. And he told me, well, that's good. He read a few chapters, and he told me, it's really good if you want to get killed. So
wow.
What is your goal? You have to calm down. What is your goal? What do you want to achieve? And he was my mentor, for which I'm really grateful. He helped me process. I went back to university and I studied Islamic studies in Germany to understand how can Islam be updated or become compatible with this day and age. And I wanted to understand from a European or academic neutral perspective, which led me to study Jewish studies because I needed to understand Judaism and Israel, because I was seeking reconciliation, not condemnation. And that brought me to discover Judaism, and myself, an atheist who grew up between the Christians and the Muslims, and I never believed there is a God. I fell in love with the wisdom and logic I found in Judaism, and slowly I came to realize that I am a believer. And I told the rabbi who was teaching us, I told him, I'm converting to Judaism. That was my personal transformation journey. That's my gift to myself. And it's rich to say it, because I think Hashem bestowed a gift upon me when I was shown the light, when I was shown the way back home. I'm overwhelmed by this gift. And only on October 7th, I understood why I was shown that light. I always thought, or I always felt a bit guilty, secretly, maybe a little ashamed, because why me? I'm not special. If Hashem can show me the light, why not show it to others? And what do I do with this gift? Because it comes with a responsibility. A lot of people accuse the Jews of being arrogant. What do you mean you're the chosen people? They don't understand that this mission they accept comes with a great responsibility, and they've been paying for it dearly. And this is how I perceived it. This gift comes with a responsibility. And nobody knew that I'm converting. On October 7th, I understood that I had to speak up for the people I saw great value in, and the world did them great injustice. But this injustice I've seen on October 7th shocked life out of me. And when I came to Jerusalem and I went to the Kotel, I just stood there not knowing what I should do. But I stood there, like, Hineni, I'm converting, and I have to tell the world that I'm doing it and why I'm doing it, and remind especially those young Jews who are gaslit and intimidated and confused that there is nothing wrong with you and everything wrong with the world.
And you've been communicating with a lot of people online through your social media posts. And what kind of reactions do you get?
The Muslims or the Arabs were infuriated, accused me of being paid by the Zionists, etc., which is a natural reaction. I can understand. They couldn't believe why I would side with the Israelis. The Jews were much more emotional about it. They thank me for what I'm doing for them, and I tell them I'm doing this for us, for humanity, not only for the Jews. Any righteous person in their right mind should condemn what happened on October 7th. And it is scary. If Hamas and their masses, whoever trained and financed what they've done, if they dare do this to the Israelis, not being deterred by the reaction of the West or the Americans, imagine what they would do to their own people if they disagree with them. Imagine what the axis of resistance would do to their own subjects if they dare do this to the Israelis, film it and broadcast it. So we should all be alert and alarmed by what happened.
And then deny it. Film it, broadcast it, show pride in it, and then deny it.
The world started apologizing, denying, justifying. It's insane. Even before Israel responded, the world accused Israel. It's your fault. And no civilians were attacked, which is insane. The first and the only hostage released, the number of hostages released included elderly and children. And Hamas officials had the audacity to deny they targeted civilians. And the world allowed them they got away with it.
I think the world, not the entire world, but many in the world, were very happy to help them deny it because it's not an easy thing to face up to.
You would be surprised that many Arabs write to me directly, private messages, ask me not to share their names. Sometimes they write to me from Beirut, from Damascus, or Cairo, or Baghdad. Some Iranians write to me from Tehran, telling me, we're proud of you, we wish we could say what you're saying. And I understand that they're risking a lot by reaching out. If someone is monitoring their accounts, they would pay for even showing solidarity for the words they are saying. However, when Muslims write to me privately, and they're living in Australia or in Canada or in Brazil and tell me, we wish we could speak up, we're proud of you. I tell them, darling, you don't need to be proud of me. We need you to speak up.
That's very true. That's very, very true. You said that you were privileged to have God show you the light. I think God shows everyone the light, but not everyone is capable of seeing it. The ones who are capable of seeing it get the gift.
Thank you so much for saying this. Everyone is shown the light. Exactly what you said. We are all given the chance to choose to be humane instead of behaving like monsters. And I hope that Arabs believe that. I, who visited Israel several times since October 7th, I know better. They've never spoken to a Jew. The Israelis are not the monsters they are told they are. In Israel, I met many partners for peace. I still seek those partners among the Arabs. There are a few, but the majority want Israel annihilated, and this is not going to happen. They just have to accept it. And Israel is a dot on the map, and they think Israel controls the entire universe. It is absurd. It's ridiculous as well, but it causes a lot of harm. And I hope this would change sooner or later. I believe that Israel will prevail, and that on October 7th, the axis of resistance, this alliance of evil, committed suicide. It was the beginning of the end of this alliance.
Well, as Golda Meir said, when the Arabs love their children more than they hate Israel, we'll have peace.